And welcome back for another episode of Cinema Times. Woo!
Cinema times, everyone. Episode 2.
Episode 2. What
With
we
a
got?
vengeance.
What we got in store for them today, boys?
Well, today we
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City,
Oh,
the
yeah.
new Resident Evil movie that just came out around Thanksgiving time, and we just watched the film this last weekend or around Friday time, I believe. So we're here to give our thoughts and our reviews on it.
Yep,
Yep.
pretty much.
I can go first if you guys want.
Hey, I'm all cool with that. Just let's figure out real quick. Are we going to start off with just the same system as last time, non-spoil and then spoil afterwards?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're gonna start doing that.
All right.
So we're gonna start with
It's not a... You go ahead, sorry.
I was just saying that. So we're gonna start off with like a non-spoiler review for our first half, and then the other half is gonna go full spoilers. We'll let you guys know ahead of time, so that way you guys don't get spoiled.
Alright. Here we go. So, those listening, the movie starts, very interesting, and what's different and keeps it, kind of drawn to the movie is the fact that horror element is perfect because they mix the horror element cinema-wise and mix the nostalgia of the first two games. So, as the movie progresses, you see almost everything looks so similar compared to the game. The buildings are the best thing. And then before the movie got released, about a month before, Capcom made it clear that they were next to the producers, director, writers, trying to keep this movie look exactly like the game. The only issue was that we can all agree is that they smashed up Resident Evil 1 and 2 in one movie.
Oh yeah.
And my friend JP can clarify that right now.
Oh yeah. This movie. Just letting you guys know, this is not a good movie at all, to be honest, and a lot of us agree with that. But we all
100%.
Kind of enjoyed the movie thoroughly. As long as you have people watching, whether a movie's good or bad, you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
But overall, the movie is it's not a very good movie. The plot of the movie is basically the first two games mashed together. And in some ways, yes, that could be done and worked off. But it felt like for this movie, it could have worked very well if they just at least done one game at a time. And to me, that's also kind of its downfall throughout the film. This movie I think they played too safe. Just letting you guys know, I think they played too safe. They literally go at least beat for beat some of the scenes of the first two games. So if you guys know the games, then you kind of already know what's going to happen. If you don't know the games yet, then you're gonna be very, very lost in some of the plots and some of the character introductions that comes into play throughout the story.
Yeah, they do a really terrible job of telling you the characters' names, honestly, because they do it in such weird intervals, and then they don't refer back to it. They just assume after they tell you once, okay, you're good to go.
Yeah, it's like the names of the characters, then they just ask you. It's kind of like a big Easter egg for the fans of the games. But for regular movie folks, they probably lost okay, I don't know who these people are. Should they be important? Should I have to be invested with them? That's part of the reasons of whenever it comes to storytelling, show me the fact that I need to care for these characters for telling me their names.
Yeah.
That's how I see it when it comes to movies.
100% agree.
Oh yeah.
So, one of the things I noticed right off the bat, the cinematography, absolutely gorgeous. Film work was fantastic. I don't have any issues at all. The crew itself did a phenomenal job. But, where they fell short was really on script, story, and just character development was, super choppy and felt weird and strange at times.
I'll tell you one thing that I do like about the film. The sets in the film, it's actually well done.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Even when you look, if you look up on Wikipedia or the budgets of this film, it cost maybe $40 million just to make the films.
Yeah.
But the director of the movie, Johan Roberts, he actually did a well job trying to utilize that amount of money to bring out the life of Raccoon City and the Smith building, the building from the first game, and use it very well, indeed.
And here's the thing too: the studio is part of the issue why the movie came out the way it did, quality wise, because there's an article out there online that came out just before the movie got released, an interview with the director explaining that there was a popular character known as Mr. X. And Mr. X is an important character in the first two games, if I'm correct. Second game?
Yeah.
And he really wanted, the producer really wanted to make this more than just nostalgia. He wanted to almost bring everything come to life out of the whole PlayStation 1, type world. We all grew up with this, and then the studio literally told them that they would actually prefer not to have the character there yet, I guess, or not at all. And they just responded to him, the movie is to be its own thing, doesn't have to be completely like the game. And then when I first read that, that's when I got worried. The movie gets released, and we were all kind of worried we should go watch it or not. We did anyways because, we're movie freaks.
When it comes to movies, you got to be able to review the good ones and the bad ones. If you see just good movies,
what I'm trying to get at. Yep.
Yeah, and regardless,
it gets very stale really quick.
When a thing comes out and says this movie's bad or this movie's good, you won't know whether the movie's good or bad unless you watch it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's what makes us different, ladies and gentlemen. This show, the whole point of it is that you could go watch a bad movie, have a good time. That's really what we do. We said in episode 1, we're nobodies. We're just regular people, average motherfuckers, and
if y'all want a great popcorn flick that you can this movie almost plays out like a entire video game cutscene. Like it feels like a long video game cutscene. If that's your thing, this, in my opinion, is a great popcorn flick. It just, the action's cool. It's entertaining. The jokes kind of fall flat here and there, but, overall...
just like the characters.
Yeah, exactly. It was cool enough to keep me captivated, going like, oh, wow, this looks cool.
Right.
Yeah. It definitely has the cool-looking shots, and some of the characters you kind of enjoy but in the most cringy aspects, because some characters, yes, their acting is some of them good. It's the dialogue and the writing that these things perform out that just doesn't really work for me.
100% agree. And
that's where they failed.
You have
that's where they fucked up.
You have a strong actor like that. The guy that was playing the chief of the police. I thought he was doing a phenomenal job, but his script was terrible.
Oh, terrible! Yeah, I could he was immediately the first person that comes to my mind where you think in these slasher films, this person's gonna die first.
Yeah,
he's that kind of person who's an asshole, and he's gonna die first.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't die first, so
you're rooting against him the entire movie.
With one of the most important monsters from the game.
But they definitely did that right. I was rooting against him the entire movie. So as far as character development is concerned, there was some. It just was weak.
Oh, very weak.
Yes,
a lot of them are one note of their characters from the games. They just followed that completely without giving us much more in depth of these characters. There are some characters that have a little bit of backstory kind of in the beginning of the movie, but it doesn't really pay off throughout the entire film. Just to be honest with.
Yeah, they weren't. The characters weren't fleshed out enough, and there wasn't enough character development for you to not fall in love with the characters. Just have a like JP said there, a deeper meaning with them and stuff, and especially with the character Leon, who's one of the most important characters since the beginning of the franchise, and then same thing with what was her name? Jill was the other one, right?
Jill Valentine,
Yeah, she played by my favorite actress, and I felt like her script could have been so much better. and I have a thing for English women and English actors. They're amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And she was phenomenal for what she was given. It's just you can tell that, like, yes, this was weak. I'm not gonna lie, the movie was weak. And then the things that we can't say that were pretty badass was the sets of the mansion.
Yeah. Oh man, those look cool.
Oh, yeah.
They look
a lot of us,
like it came out of the fucking screen of the PlayStation 1 game.
Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of us agree, like, the sets from the mansion, the police station, even Raccoon City in general.
Like, if you guys...
Yes.
Have you guys played any of the remasters of the Resident Evil series yet?
I've seen the gameplays of it.
Okay.
And,
so,
to be honest, I liked how they look.
Yeah, so, like, the explosions in those remind me a lot of the explosions in this movie, where it's like it's layered. Like, there's actually layers to it. I thought that was such a neat idea, because you don't see that a lot of times when like, for example, there's I'm not going to spoil the scene, but a helicopter explodes and it crashes into a building and explodes. And you get to basically see the layers of the explosion as they're happening. And I thought that was a really neat choice and a very cool camera technique, honestly, because that takes a lot of precision to get right. Like, that's not an easy shot to do by any means. So, like, they had, like, top cinematographers on a movie with a super weak script, which kind of saddens me a little bit, because I wonder, like, if the script was good, how great this movie could have been, honestly.
In my opinion, like I think I said, this movie could have been like very good if they just did like a very well character development first game movie.
Yeah.
Just like
an introduction.
Just like they did like with Alien or something like that.
Yes, 100%.
Like Alien.
Like that, exactly like that.
We had this conversation after the movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Because in Alien, you get introduced who the fuck is this random girl named Ripley. You get introduced to the crew. You get introduced to these typical people that work in space. And then once they're introduced, then you slowly get introduced into the xenomorph and the face hugger and whatever.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
the horror continues.
Dude, like,
and the problem with this movie is that they actually don't get a proper introduction, and it makes me feel bad for the cast because you cannot blame them, especially for this movie, and you can't really blame the director either. He was trying to do what he could with the studio interfering here and there. Then again, it's fucking Sony.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was about to say too. Like, Sony interfered, like, just like Warner Bros. Like, Sony is one of those companies for the most part, except for like finally with the Spider-Man stuff, like they're letting their creative heads do what they do well. But like with the majority of their movies, like they like literally are like over the director's shoulder the entire way through the filming process.
Oh yeah, Sony is like completely like, in control to a lot of moviegoers out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Only like in my opinion, like they are the number ones in my opinion that control too much of the creative development of their creative teams. And then second to that is going to be Disney, obviously. But Sony, so far for the past like couple of years, even with the Venom films, they've always like fallen short. Even though I enjoy some of the Venom films, but there's always been something about those films that has me thinking, what if Sony could just back off and just let the directors and writers
let the writers like make a
That's
good
really
story.
What they are.
Like the biggest issue with the Venom movies is the characters are very enjoyable, but the story is just awful. Like there's no plot.
You can tell when the studio interferes with the Venom movies because they half-ass it. That's the way you can tell.
They choose great actors.
Come out of a movie saying, I wanted more," is because the studio interfered.
Yeah.
And just make the movie halfway good.
Yeah, I'm never satisfied like after watching those movies, because it's like they give you such great actors and they never utilize them properly. They always
No.
they waste it. It's like,
Right.
guys, like you
And it's
could do so much
just like
better.
there's a lot of good actors in Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Anna John Karen, Kara Solorio, Robbie Allen, and a lot of characters from Arrow. All these are good actors.
Yep.
But they've been wasted.
Yep.
Yes, they really were. And before we go to the spoilish final part of the episode, one of the last things I can say now before we go to that segment is that it's enjoyable. I say watch it anyways because I did a little bit of research. Even though it's mixed, I guess the fan base is a lot bigger, and there's already a possibility for a sequel.
Yeah.
Well, like a sequel series, from what I heard. They're making a Resident Evil series on Netflix.
That's what I've heard too. I think it'll do better on there personally. I think Netflix is a better spot for it.
Definitely.
Yeah. For now, it's probably because, I'm just gonna hold now before we go to the spoilish thing because the rest of my conversation is just super spoilish.
Yeah.
No problem. But anyways, like you can definitely watch this movie. In fact, watch this movie. It's best to watch this movie with a group of people, so that way you don't feel like at least like I'm wasted away watching a movie that I know I'm probably gonna forget in like probably a week or two. So definitely, it's best to watch this with a film. So I guess we're gonna start off with our reviews, final reviews. I'm gonna give this movie 2.5 out of 5 stars, only because at least the set designs are good and some of the acting is all right. But overall, the plot and the writing, it felt very, very short. It could have been better. Could have been a whole lot better if they'd done it at least just one game at a time. And unfortunately, it definitely shows a lot of studio interference for this film.
Go ahead, Cristian.
I give it you guys are gonna be shocked what I'm about to say. 3 stars.
First 3 stars.
All right.
Yeah.
3-star review.
All right.
So for me, I think I gave a review of this on my Letterboxd account also.
You son of a...
Gotta put that plug in there, I gave it a 1 star, and it's just, for me, it was really cool to watch, but there was too many flaws with it for me to like really say like, oh, this is a movie I'll go back to. You know what I mean? Like it didn't really have a rewatchability factor to it, and that was mainly my reason for the 1 star.
Definitely much of a rental, so yeah.
Yeah. Like if I hadn't seen it in theaters, like it'd probably be like a one-off rental, for sure.
Ready for the spoils now?
I think we're ready to.
Before I guess if you guys are a Resident Evil fan, like if you're a diehard first 2 games, you're gonna have a lot of good like Easter eggs and a lot of good references for it.
Yeah.
But if you've never heard of the Resident Evil games, then obviously this movie is gonna fall flat for you. That's my fault.
Confused.
Yeah, you'll be lost the entire time for sure.
Definitely.
You will have to at least read maybe anything short Resident Evil wise, book or comic. Because I'm pretty sure there's something out there that people who are not familiar with the games I can read. Yeah, and that's the most you can do.
Yeah, or watch gameplays on YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's tons of gameplay videos on YouTube for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right then, so we can start going into spoiler section.
Yeah. So if anybody doesn't want to listen to spoilers, now is the time to leave. We are getting ready to delve into that now.
And 1.
Let's go. Spoilers. All right, boys. What do you want to do first?
Let's start from the beginning. That truck driver scene. That entire scene felt like it could have been paying off for something for like the end of the movie.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be so much bigger.
Yeah, something so much bigger, because I know in Resident Evil 2 they leave in the truck actually, because the truck driver dies.
I forgot about that.
That's how they escape. Like they escape, and how they go off into the wilderness, because the truck was like there in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to happen, but at the end of the movie, they just abruptly ended it like that, like right Resident Evil, then the credits. I was like, oh, that's it? Because I felt like it should have been a little bit more.
Yeah, with them walking away from the end of the tunnel, from that secret tunnel with the train, and then they do that weird digital number of all the people of Raccoon City dead.
Yeah, and then you see the 5 of them walk out.
They show the number 0 with pretty much referencing that Umbrella not completely aware that there were like what 5 survivors.
I think
left?
it was 5. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
See, like, and that's like the thing. Like, I can't even remember how many people survived.
Yeah,
it was just like it was Leon, Claire,
that little girl,
Chris, the little girl, and I think Jill was that part of the team. I don't know. I think Jill left or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
And that was like the other thing too. Is like Jill, like she's supposed to be the main character of that movie, and like you get like little to no screen time of her character.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I was complaining about in the beginning.
Like she shows up at the beginning of the movie, and then she doesn't show up until like pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah, they mentioned her, and she was involved in the house thing, but other than that, she was barely very involved in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because she wasn't really that much involved in the first 2 games, but at least she had character in those 2 games. I mean, she's heavily involved in the 3rd game. So
100%. But like they build her up in this movie to be like the main character.
They build her up,
like
as an
especially in the marketing.
The opening scene also, like with her meeting her friend, and it's like, oh my! It's like, guys, you set her up to be the main character, and then she isn't. That's just that. It was confusing to me because it's like,
well, it was.
For someone like who because like I'll admit firsthand I'm not the like biggest Resident Evil fanatic by any means. I've played a few of the games, I've seen a few of the movies, but like overall I wouldn't call myself a fanatic by any means. But like I went into that movie and I see that opening scene and I'm assuming, okay, this is our main character, and like they were like, okay, nope, we're gonna go shift to the next ones.
Right. And they fucked up, they fucked up her moment for this movie. Yeah. And that they screwed Leon in so many ways.
They should have made Leon the main character.
His facial hair, they made him somewhat stupid, even though he was kind of funny. And then they did the same thing. They pause on him, move to these other characters that you will barely know.
Yep.
And it's just, I agree. It's just so stupid. It's like, what the fuck happened during the filming? Like, did somebody fall asleep or somebody else got on the chair? Like, what the hell?
There was very little emotion going on.
They try to make some sort of like ensemble movie for this one because of the amount of characters there is in the Resident Evil films. Because I mean, and that could work in like some aspects, like in like a bunch of Roland Emmerich films, they could do that right. But for this director, he tries to do it right, but it just didn't feel like it was very like cohesive.
Yeah. No, the plot was not the most coherent plot for sure.
Oh yeah, especially with that zombie in the beginning of the film that got hit by the truck.
Yes.
I never saw her.
Right.
That never got mentioned up at all.
Never.
At all, yeah.
Yeah. She just walks off, survives, like and they just leave it be, and they go to the dog and the driver after that.
They let it be, and then I remember me and JP were discussing how, in the house, going back to the house, the mansion, whatever, where all these zombies were just popping out of fucking nowhere at one point, Yeah. And poor Chris, he was like if it was a zombie magnet the whole fucking time. The poor fucker was getting attacked so much.
You know what's sad though? Like I feel like was a missed opportunity, and I feel like the fans of this franchise probably would have been upset with it, but I, being a movie fan, would have enjoyed a lot. They could have gone the Evil Dead route with this, made it more of a comedy.
Oh yeah.
And like spiced it up that way. Like to where, okay, this movie's gonna be ridiculous, but at least it's lighthearted and funny on top of it. And they missed their mark with that. They
definitely
I feel like they could have added that in there, and it would have probably made the movie, in some ways, not necessarily a great movie, but a cult classic. Where I feel like
Cult classic.
it's
I
so
agree with that.
forgettable. Like
It definitely
Right.
worked. Yeah, it definitely would have
Yeah,
made it
like-
more memorable.
Yeah.
Because of how you say keep it like a little bit more of a goofier tone or a self-aware tone.
Yeah.
Because we know
Right,
it's a
self-aware
video game
tone. I like
movie.
that.
Obviously, video game movies are not going to translate so well. Like video games are not going to translate so well into the screen. But at least acknowledge that this whole thing is kind of ridiculous instead of just filming a ridiculous scene.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's more,
Because-
we put emphasis on it.
Because RJ's right. I like how he said that it could have been something like Evil Dead. It could have taken place half of the time at the mansion, and instead of the Necromonger book like they do in Evil Dead,
The Necronomicon.
in their movie, they could have had that they kept the notes, the vials, which were barely described or spoken of in this whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
You just get a glimpse of them in a suitcase.
That's what I was about to say. Like they
Easter eggs. That's it.
they
Yeah,
built.
everything was just an Easter egg, and that's where they failed. It's like, oh, it's just an Easter egg movie. That's really what this was.
Yeah. Like
And
they.
so they made everything so into an Easter egg that the Easter eggs could have been used instead for the plot, and that's how the movie falls flat as well.
Yeah, they build
They
up
just-
the
they
syringes,
shorted themselves.
and
Yeah.
they show you them at the end of the movie. Like
Right,
they talk about
very
this
end.
disease the entire movie, and or like this what's it called? This experiment that they've been working on the entire movie. I would have been okay with seeing a scene where they're working on it. That would have been kind of cool. But instead,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
we just see these things in a suitcase at the end of the movie. It's like, okay,
I guess they're trying to keep Umbrella mysterious, which makes sense because even in the beginning of the first 3 games, Umbrella is supposed to be a mysterious corporation, and we don't know much about them until maybe Resident Evil 4 and 5. when
And
the
I can
true
understand,
identities are revealed.
in a game that makes sense because it takes a 24 to 48 hours to beat some of these games. So
Mhm.
it makes sense when you put it in a game to leave a little bit of mystery for them to come back for the next one and the next one. But for movies, I feel like it's a little bit different because you have basically a 2-hour time slot to give your viewer as much information as possible.
Right. And besides
leave
character
them on their
development,
seat for the next
They had
one.
to squeeze and bunch the familiar zombies, the familiar science behind it, the familiar mutant monsters that are mixed with the whole Umbrella experiments. And then if it's not just that, they also gotta speed up the climax and then the ending.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes back, like we were discussing, how the ending didn't feel that much of what's the word? Satisfying, I guess.
The mansion scene was cool though.
Yes.
Like
The
that whole,
mansions. I think most of the scenes in the mansion are the best.
Yeah,
Besides the police station.
100%.
Well, here's the thing with video games and movies. In video games, you're technically attached to a main character, no matter what. You're gonna have to go
Right.
with them through outside, inside, through a door, interact with a lot of people. So essentially, you are the character when it comes to
Exactly.
video games. In movies, it's way much like the opposite. It's the characters they're trying to invest into you. That's how movies are worked, and that's how the good writing does it. You want to have these characters attached to you, so you can feel good about it. Instead, in video games, you are the character, and you got to
Exactly.
do the stuff like that. But that's
And that's where they missed their opportunity with Leon. That right there. That's
With
where they
Leon
missed their
and-
opportunity.
Oh yeah, with Leon especially because he's basically the main character in Resident Evil 2, and he should have been at least, in my opinion, the audience. He should have been the audience at least.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Right.
in the Mortal Kombat movie with that one funny comic relief character. He was basically the audience for the entire film.
They should have.
That's a good example. Kano.
Yeah, they should have built
That
more
is a good
stakes
example.
to where I don't know, I never for a second felt oh, this main character is gonna just die.
Right.
I was never
Of course
worried.
not.
I was never sad. I was just
They're all
okay,
plot armor.
they died. All right. Are they coming back as a monster, or are they dead? All right.
Right.
They're dead. Cool. All right.
For one guy, for one guy, and this is really spoilish. One of the doctors that seems like he perfected either perfected the T virus and some other stuff he had in the suitcase with the vials.
Yeah, you're talking about the main doctor. Yeah.
He gets shot by Wesker because you get a little of an introduction of Wesker, and then this other guy injects himself, and he becomes a very familiar mutant monster when you see the detail, which I kind of give props to the movie because
that
they
looks
kind of
fantastic.
yeah, and then later on, typical climax, the guy mutates into something very horrific, and towards the end, we do say that like 5 seconds after the credits start, there's a quick scene where it shows that Wesker is revived because he gets somewhat killed, and there's a familiar face from the video games, and it's what was her name, JP?
Ada Wong.
And apparently she's a big deal in this franchise.
Oh, she's
and Wesker.
Second game.
Second game, exactly. See, that's the thing, people. They kept smashing 2 games into one fucking movie. A 2-hour movie, like RJ was fucking saying, and that's the problem here.
Insane.
It was overfilled and it's just erupting with so much BS.
They should have just taken inspiration from the games and did their own thing rather than mash it. Like, I agree with you because I've seen enough of the first 2 games to know, like, it literally felt like they took the story of Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 and mashed them together into a monstrosity of a movie, unfortunately.
Yes.
And it was beautiful.
With no character development, no decent story.
Yeah.
And going back to Jill again. they even on the posters, you can tell with the camera angle, they focusing on the actress or on the trailer, same thing.
Yeah.
And then you're watching the movie, and it's like, okay, like, where's Jill? And I swear, dude, in my mind, I was asking, where's Jill? Like, the first 10 minutes of the fucking movie.
Well, if I remember, Jill's the main character of the movie franchise that they did for, like, the last 20 years at this point, right?
No, that was Alice.
Alice, that's her. Okay. See, and this is why I cannot say that I am a Resident Evil fan for that reason alone.
It's so good.
Yeah. Well, Jill,
and when you compare both, we can all say this was better, though.
I will say that. I will say I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I've enjoyed any of the other Resident Evil movies I have seen.
I say I enjoyed this movie a little bit more better than the last 5 Resident Evil movies they made. The first 2 movies I probably have a little bit more enjoyment than this one. But the other ones, this movie kind of like at least blows those last 5 sequels out of the park.
It does, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then going back to that quick credit scene, Wesker gets his signature shades because when he's revived, there's a side effect with his body and his eyes. And apparently, it obviously leaves it open for something bigger for another sequel. For
Classic
a sequel to come out. Yeah. And then in the end of it, you're like, okay. And then when us 3 walked out of the theater where we're talking about it, and, we were all thinking, okay, if they're going to redeem themselves for what they released, then at least make the sequel something so big that you can just fucking, what's the word I'm looking for? At least, I guess an apology almost, because they had fans. They had fans so ready for this, man. And
yeah, they did. I know a lot of friends that were excited for it to release, and a bunch of them were let down by it too.
Exactly.
If they were going to do a sequel, they're obviously going to have to do it for Resident Evil 3 and focus a lot on Jill.
Yeah.
And then introduce like some of these major villains like Nemesis and so forth. And then they're going to have to do like a very good character development film for that one.
So
they want to,
like,
redeem themselves for the first one.
tell me this, because I've only played like the first few Resident Evil games, and I haven't even played them all the way through. And then I played a bit of 7, and I saw gameplay of 8. Um, when does Alice appear, or is she just a movie character?
She's made up.
She's just made up, like they just put her in for the movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
like
Paul W.S. Anderson was married to her.
Okay, so like this whole entire time, because I've seen Jill in the games, so this whole entire time I've thought they were the same person, which is hysterical.
Oh no!
But
no!
this
Trust
makes
me,
so much
Jill,
more sense
if anything,
now.
Jill's more amazing than that made-up character, stupid Alice.
Oh yeah, I mean, Jill.
That's
did
too
appear
funny.
In the second Resident Evil movie, but she was kind of like the same thing in this movie, just like sidelined a bit.
Okay.
She had the dress, she had the haircut and everything.
Yeah, no, I remember her.
She was there. Yeah.
I remember her in Resident Evil 2. Like I remember that very well.
Yeah.
But like, oh man, like if they're gonna do a sequel to this, my advice personally, take like 2 years to just like write a good script.
Exactly. Take your time with it.
And
that's one thing that they're lacking in all these studios. They're not taking their time, or if they do take their time in a project like this, they come out with a movie that's half okay.
Well, I was gonna say, after they've decided that's a good script, throw that one out and make an even better one.
That's a good idea.
Then you have a good sequel. Because obviously I think they took like 2 years on this movie, and this is the end result. I find that a little sad and disappointing, because like,
exactly what I'm saying.
A lot of work, a lot of hard work went into making this movie look cool, and the other side of things did not go up to par by any. It was like they didn't take their job seriously with this, and that was kind of disappointing.
It definitely shows, because the CGI in this film was not good at all.
No,
the
CGI was awful.
And let's make it clear, JP's a professional. He will know, ladies and gentlemen. And me and JP were talking about that after the movie. We were talking about how I was telling JP that in the trailers you can kind of see the quality look different, and then when we watched the movie, the quality shifted.
Yeah,
and
it was
weird.
It was like they put unfinished CGI in the movie.
Exactly.
Like the sets and the visuals were beautiful, and then you have like some of these creatures that don't look like they're actually there.
Right. Look like they've been ported literally off from PlayStation games.
Yeah, like it's literally like a PS5 remaster of Resident Evil 2. You know,
right.
Like...
and when you do monsters, like some of the monsters in Resident Evil, you can pull it off with practical effects. Yeah. You really can.
No.
John Carpenter the shit, man. God damn. And shit like that pisses me off. Personally,
they could have. They definitely could have gone the more practical route. I think that would have been neat. I'm always personally like, I know
Slime up the monsters, make them very fleshed out.
And I know it's harder. I know it's harder to do in this day and age, but like honestly, the movies usually just come out better when it's practical effects.
It does. Definitely. It still does.
Yeah.
It's just laziness at this point with cinema. They have the money. I get sick of this thing where people say, "Oh no, they're just budgeted." No. This is Sony. I mean, let's be honest. Sony has nothing left. They lost Marvel. They lost Marvel completely.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, now they're teaming up with I don't know if you saw the Into the Spider-Verse Part 1.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Well, we did. Yeah. I liked it.
So we'll talk
about that afterwards.
Yeah, they got a sequel coming out to Into the Spider-Verse called, Into the Spider-Verse called Into the Multiverse Part 1. And it's like,
and that's the thing about Sony.
It already looks.
They don't really have much left.
Well, like it already looks like an Oscar movie just off of a tiny trailer. It's like,
yeah, it looks good.
It's like day and night comparison when you're dealing with Sony Pictures and a Columbia studio picture at this point, because like they give their good stuff to Columbia, and like pretty much like anything that Sony does on its own for the most part, except for Free Guy, because that was that one was phenomenal. Oh wait, no, Free Free Guy was
Free Guy was
partnered
from
with
Fox.
Disney, right?
It was Fox.
That was
Free Guy
Fox entirely. I could have sworn Columbia helped out with that.
Disney owns Fox, so it's kind of like both.
Yeah. No, I know Disney owns Fox, but didn't Sony partner with them on that one too?
I don't think so.
I could be wrong. All right, but we'll ignore that point then. I'll try to look that up. But anyways, like I've noticed that a lot with Columbia Pictures. Like I've noticed their qualities a lot stronger. Like take the Jumanji films for example. Um, like they're fun. They might not be the best movies, but they make sure that they're fun at least. Where you get the other side of Sony, and it's like they're beautiful to look at, but there's no fun in them at all.
Right.
And I'd
That's
rather
why
have
I
the
like-
fun.
That's why I like the whole Evil Dead idea that you brought up earlier.
Yeah.
I think that will make a decent Resident Evil movie.
Make this movie like scary fun instead of
Scary fun.
Scary.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Well, just go
Yeah.
like horror comedy it at this point. Like it doesn't even have to be scary as long as it has horror elements. Like
Yeah.
like
And this movie
Evil
definitely
Dead
had
2
horror
like had
elements,
like
so-
jump scares, but like you don't necessarily get scared from it. It's just like
No.
the hand pops out. Oh no. You know what I mean? Like you jump out for a second when the music comes on, but that's about it.
Exactly.
Definitely. And this movie definitely has some horror elements, especially like the whole Chris scene fighting in the hallway when everything's so dim and dark, and
Yeah.
he's just fighting
Right.
zombies.
He had to use a lighter, and I like that.
Oh, and that
definitely
opening
gives you the
sequence, too.
claustrophobic feel of a horror movie in there. So
Yeah.
that's one of the good things of it.
The opening sequence also was terrifying.
Oh yeah, definitely suspenseful.
Yeah, like for somebody
Right.
Story, yeah.
for somebody like who gets scared like I don't personally, but if somebody gets scared easily and they watch the introduction to this movie, I feel like they'd be horrified a little bit. Like they'd
Yes.
be freaked
it had
out by
a
that.
Conjuring feel at the
Right.
beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
I just wish the whole movie was like this. Because
exactly.
honestly, that whole beginning movie, that whole opening could have been cut off, and it wouldn't matter to the story at all.
Pretty
in my
much.
opinion. In fact, in my opinion, it could have like improved the story between like Chris and Claire, so that way we could establish them as brother and sister
Yeah.
instead of just showing up in the beginning. Yes, they are brother and sister.
Yeah, it was weird how they set that up. Cause then they bring him in as her brother, and it's like, okay, so you show them together, and then you separate them again, and then they meet up at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt forced.
Definitely.
Right.
There's one thing I want to talk about. It's it's like somewhere in the middle. It's like during the police station scene in the movie where the truck driver he gets bit by the radioactive dog and he becomes a zombie and decides to crash the truck into the police station. And then out of nowhere, he just comes up walking into the police station on fire with like 70s music blasting out. And I'm assuming this is supposed to be a fun scene, but I was very confused of what that scene was supposed to happen or represent in there because
Pretty
I was
much.
like, what? So I don't know how you guys thought about it, but I was just like, I don't know what the heck they were trying to do with this particular scene. He could have been dead for all I care, and that wouldn't matter much.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like so many characters in this movie could have just died off, and it would have just been okay. They're dead.
Right.
I had no attachment whatsoever. Like if they killed Leon off, I would have been, I probably would have been the most sad if his character died off, and even then, it was just like okay.
Oh, everybody would have been pissed. They would have pissed off the fans immediately.
Oh,
and
I'm
this
sure.
movie would have been dropped off the radar.
Well,
Immediately.
if
Like,
they,
you'll
if they
never
had
see anything
decided.
Resident Evil related on the screen again.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what would have probably happened is if they had killed him off, they would have just made an excuse for how he survived and comes back in the sequel.
Oh, just like Wesker.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So.
So yeah, I mean, to I guess to conclude it, it was nice. It was a decent movie, and then, like I said, yeah, I gave it 3 stars because I just felt like you get you get an unbalanced feel after you're done watching it. You're not completely satisfied. I wasn't completely satisfied. It was like all right, yet enjoyable for what it was, and on the defense towards the director, even though I'm not familiar with him too well, I will admit the epidemic also could have played a part in this. I feel like he should have just released the movie next year.
Yeah.
And
the director, he's best known of making 47 Meters Down and the sequel, if you've heard of that, and the sequel to Strangers.
Oh,
so
that's why the cinematography.
Oh yeah, that's him. That's true. That is him.
That explains why the cinematography was so good. Those movies were beautiful to watch, and unfortunately,
especially
also
Strangers.
The sequel to Strangers, Strangers Prey of Night.
Yeah, Strangers Prey of Night. I love that one.
Yeah.
Because
that one.
He's good, and that's what baffles me. I was like, he's good, and
this is not his first time in horror, so.
No, it's not,
but
and that's what bothers me. It's like, okay.
I mean, the first.
If you're gonna take people's money and get people's attention, do it the right way, man. Like it's getting annoying with this kind of cinema bullshit these days.
But like, to be fair, the first 47 Meters Down was a decent movie, but that second one had the same issues as this one, where the visuals were beautiful, but the script was terrible. So it's not like this is the first time where he's done a movie.
Right, it's not exactly.
You end up,
and that's why I'm talking with the tone I'm talking right now, because like we've seen this shit before. It's like, come on, like
he needs to learn from his mistakes and improve on them. And I don't know if this was necessarily entirely his fault, but unfortunately,
it's the studio.
When you're the director of a movie, you get the blame for it. It's unfortunate. It happens to a lot. I mean, Zack Snyder's the probably primary example in this past decade with what happened to him in Justice League, and it wasn't even his fault about it. But they get the blame for it.
Well, I think these days people are a little bit more aware of studio interference when it comes to movies, because of how everything's on the internet these days, and everybody can voice their own opinions.
Yeah, it definitely makes it easy.
Tell you, some sort of executive higher up comes down and told this director and writer, say, hey, we need to include this scene for sponsors, or we need to exclude this scene because of focus groups. So these days, I don't think anybody can blame solely on the director. I mean, yes, there are some directors out there you can blame, Michael Bay, for instance. But you can't solely blame on the writer or directors.
No, I would say still the majority of people do, but it definitely has gotten less over the years with the help of the internet. But I still see it too much where people are online going this movie sucks because this director is terrible. It's it's not necessarily their fault. Read into the production, look into the behind the scenes more before you come up with those judgments for sure. I'm completely with you on that, but until I do that, it just the movie didn't turn out well, and I am curious to know why, more or less.
They definitely need to lessen up the plots, in my opinion, because there was 3 different plots going on, especially that whole doctor's family plot literally went nowhere other than the daughter survived, and the doctor is involved with the G virus and stuff. I was like, you know what, this could have been interweaved into the first plot maybe, the whole mansion one, and it could have worked well.
It felt almost it could have been a 2-parter. But I don't know if I would have been interested to see 2 parts of it, because the first part wasn't interesting, So.
Should have done that way.
Should have, man.
They definitely did not hit the bar on this one, but I think it leads, because enough people are complaining about it. I think maybe they'll listen, because obviously there's a lot of fans of this franchise because the games sell like crazy. So
they do. I was telling JP this. I was telling him after the movie that the irony here is, and it's just ironic that, first it was the re-release of these remade old games that make them look beautiful, like you guys were talking about earlier, and then they released the news not too long ago about, there's a new Resident Evil movie getting released, and there's a show getting released on Netflix.
Yep.
And the problem here was, too, that, I'm not going to lie, it is a little confusing. It's like, all right, what are you doing? You released this movie half-assed, and now we're getting a Netflix show that literally, I did my homework before we did this today. It definitely has nothing to do with the movie. There's no connection.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yet the work on the show looks a little bit different than the movie, but it looks like the show actually might be using practical effects, because there's a small quick teaser of the typical hounds that get mutated in the franchise. And I swear it looks like they're using practical effects. And
yeah, that's another thing.
I'm going to roll the dice with the show.
I was cool with the zombie dog, or whatever you want to call it, the mutated dog. I was cool with that.
Yeah.
I actually wish they would have put more of those in there. I thought that was a cool aspect to the movie.
And there usually is. Because remember that bird that one of the people noticed in the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Yeah, the bird
Definitely
was neat
impressive.
too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. That's the thing about the virus, too, that, it's almost unpredictable what it affects and what happens.
For sure.
And I think that would have been the perfect thing to take place in the mansion, and most of it take place in the mansion. Like, they could have done the police station for, like, a few scenes at the beginning of the movie, and then slowly just have the rest of the movie take place in the mansion. And I think that could have worked.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's all I gotta say. I just feel like, the more I talk about it, it just feels like it gets more negative and negative. It was enjoyable for what it was, just not a movie, like RJ said, that you'll be watching a few times afterwards.
Yeah, this was a one-off for me, for sure.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
like, I'll watch it again eventually at home at a random time. If I'm doing like a sci-fi marathon on my own, it's just then again, it's not fucking aliens, man.
Yeah. I think it will probably look better on a smaller screen too, because a lot of times when you get CGI that looks weird on a big screen, when you shrink it down, it looks more detailed. So I think maybe a home release is better for this one.
Yeah, you don't find like anything like deep or meaty with this movie. It's just literally just a sci-fi horror movie that has no themes going on whatsoever.
It's a popcorn.
It's
a popcorn
just
flick.
popcorn.
it is what it is. Like it's
adult
exactly that.
Noise for adults. So,
yeah. You're gonna come in. You're gonna watch it. You're gonna munch on some popcorn. You're gonna leave because there's just not much else to the movie.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because
there's not a lot of depth.
Almost watched it like the week it got released. It's just that again, like we were talking about the quality. The quality looked different when you see the marketing for it.
Yeah.
And then by the time we watched it, like we just discussed, you could tell the quality was yet again different while watching the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you know what I'm thinking? We might as well do a review on the Netflix show. Do it like a extra episode that connects with episode 2.
For sure. Let me know. Like, we'll set that all up and everything. I don't even know when it comes out, so that'll be the first thing is figuring out when that.
I think it comes out either January or February.
Okay, that's perfect. That'll work.
Yeah.
We can be more diverse with our topics too, so that'll help out a lot.
True.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm all for going into some streaming. I actually have, speaking of which, an idea after we wrap this up for possibly next.
Here, let's wrap this up and let's discuss like our own conversation. Let's just finish the episode now.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I'm.
All right, y'all. It's been good.
Take it easy, everybody. We'll catch you next time. We're gonna actually figure out after this show what we're gonna do for the next episode. So.
Yep. So
Oh,
be in
Spider-Man.
touch as what happened.
Well, Spider-Man's definitely coming, but there's still 2 weeks, so we might be able to fill in another one before that. So definitely,
we'll see what movie.
exactly. Definitely stick around, guys, and come back for the next episode. Like always, this is the Cinema Times.
Cinema
Signing
time.
off. This is JP over here signing off, and see you guys next time.
Yeah,
See
RJ
y'all. Bye.
signing off too.